thoughts of renewal, of turning ourselves to new days. So we look toward what will be an incredible year, a year for us to be in transition, but also for us to grow together. I was reminded of this last week. I'm not just going to tell you stories of my travels, but one more is that as Carrie and I had a layover in Boston, we're in the hotel at the airport, and we go to ask in a couple hours, so we said, let's get some good Italian food. So we go downstairs to the concierge, and we ask, where can we get some good Italian food? And right next to the concierge, this little picture of two Jewish guys with tali tota. And we think, we're not at Temple Israel anymore. Why would there be this picture by the concierge of these two little people with tali tota on? And so we start looking and we're wondering, and we see all these people coming to check in, and turns out, of course, the hotel we chose was the home of a Jewish conference for the 12 hours we were there. And in talking with the organizer and looking at the list of the 60-plus educators and rabbis who came to this conference and seeing so many of my classmates, the leader said, so who's your educator? I said, well, it's Debbie Massarano. She said, wow. We know Debbie Massarano. And so as we share these words, as we prepare for this year in Rosh Hashanah and thinking about where we've been and where we are going, it comes to my mind as a way of introducing Debbie to say that this is what has happened time and time again, that we have been told by so many. And we knew as we talked with Debbie and we interviewed her that we are getting a world-class educator, a well-known, a well-experienced, a well-educated, passionately Jewish educator to be not only with our kids, but also with our adults as we move into this new chapter. And so it's a great privilege to have her as our speaker this evening as she begins in so many ways to be our teacher.
Okay, Mishaneh Makom, Mishaneh Mazal is a Hebrew expression which means change your place and change your life. I had no idea when I chose that topic that we would be in the very first week of Elul, which pushes us to change our place in terms of our behavior. So it's sort of ironic that I didn't let me, this is where we are, right? So 1 year ago, 6 months after my middle son Micah had moved out of the house with a bunch of his friends, he was 22 at the time, I called to check in, and he sounded terrible. I asked if he wanted to come over, and 15 minutes later, he was in my arms. He was really upset. He hated living in Texas. He didn't like the people he was hanging around with. He hated that there was no ocean or mountains in which to play and climb. I asked him, if you could live anywhere, where would you go? And he said, Portland or Seattle. 2 days later, I took him out to dinner and I said to him, Micah, I've never told you how to live your life, but I'm about to do just that. You're 22 years old. Now is the time to chase your dreams. Don't get stuck here in Dallas like I have. You're young and you can go anywhere. I told him I wanted to hear by Friday that he had spoken with his supervisor about transferring to the Pacific Northwest. 4 days later, I got a call from him that he had done just that. And 7 months later, he moved to Seattle and is there as we speak, hiking whenever he can and hanging out by the water. That night after dinner, I realized I was a total hypocrite. I also hated living in Texas and realized I had to take my own advice, set an example for my children of taking better care of myself, and get the heck out of Dallas. 3 months later, after that conversation, I told the congregation I was working at that it was time for me to leave. I came to realize that the 20 years in Dallas was my own personal 20 years in the desert. Just like the Israelites' time in the desert, it was a time of profound personal growth, profound professional growth, and generally just really profound. I raised my children in Dallas, my marriage fell apart in Dallas, my journey as a Jewish educator grew through wonderful and varied experiences in Dallas, and after 20 years, it was time to get out of the desert. As transitions go, this is a really big one. I was picking up and going to a place where I knew no one. I was doing it alone, without my children to help create social circles the way that it happens when you move with young kids. In general, throughout my life, I moved as if I was on a small boat in the river. I pretty much let the current take me where it led me. This was the very first time in my life that I stuck the oar in the water and said, I want to turn right and go down this tributary. I chose to turn. I chose to move out of the main currents of the waters over to the bank and change direction. Up until that moment, I did not consider myself a risk taker at all. People, friends, and family have been trying to help me realize that this step, this choice, is a courageous one. It was a choice to no longer do what I had always done. It was a choice to leave a place of comfort and for a time be uncomfortable. 3 months after choosing to take a new turn, I began my search for a new place, a makom hadash. I was able to really think deeply about this next path of my life's journey and to make a choice about where it would take me. And for the first time in my life, I got to be intentional about what happened next. I thought about what I wanted most in my next place, and the answer was community. So that turn, that changing of place, brought me here to this place. I think the changing of one's place presents tremendous opportunity. Believe it or not, I got to leave some bags behind. Many of the things I bring with me, I was able to choose to bring with me. Okay, yes, I still have some baggage that no matter how hard I try to throw it away, it sometimes creeps up, right? But for the most part, I got to clean out the closets, literally and figuratively. When I sold my house last fall, I had to sift through 20 plus years of stuff. I had to find a way to sort through what I wanted to take, had to take, and what got left behind. My mantra became, I'd hold it up and I'd say, am I keeping this for the rest of my life so that when I die, my children have to go through it, right? Some things like family pictures were easy, of course they come, and then there were other things. I have to tell you a story. My daughter-in-law was helping me clean out the garage. She holds this thing up. She says, what's this? And I said, oh my God, that's the little toddler-sized rocking chair that my mother-in-law bought for my children. I know it's missing an arm. And she's looking at me going, really? And I said, are my grandbabies going to rock on this? And she said, no. And she tosses it. So I realized that things sometimes that were really meaningful for me still didn't come along on the ride. So this transition was an intentional one for me, filled with so much meaning and symbolism and joy and hope. Our congregation is about to change our place. In the past 5 weeks, I have seen here the same intentionality of what are we taking because we want to go on to the next generation, right? We are asking that here. What are we keeping until the next generation gets to keep it and keep it and keep it? There has been lots of stuff to sort, Wendy. But I can tell you the biggest thing that we are taking with us is our community. Whether we take the 40-year-old textbooks or the posters on the walls, those don't get passed on to the next generation. But this amazing sense of belonging to a community does. And yes, this move for some or many may take time to be comfortable, but I know, as with my move, time will make it so. My favorite word in the Torah is hineni. It means I'm here. Not just I'm here, but I am here. I am present. I'm aware of my surroundings. I'm here with my whole self. Just changing your place will not change your luck on its own. I have come to realize for me, I need to really be able to say hineni to appreciate the changing of time and space. During my last 6 months in the desert of Dallas, I learned that it was now time to seek joy and not just find it or wait for just changing my place will not change my life on its own. I have to be an active participant in making that happen. I have to seek the moments of joy, and I have to seek the moments of love. So, like the Israelites in the desert, it was time to change my place, to get out of the desert and look for new possibilities. I'm not yet willing to say that Omaha is the promised land, but I'll let you know in 2 years. As we all move to a new place, may we do so from strength to strength. Chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek, Shabbat Shalom.
I'd like to point out that the Halstead stayed through that entire. There were many moments in which they could have left.